this evening, I'm going to be a little bit more in the low positive probably than high positive, just to conserve my energy. Just out of curiosity, how many of you guys have found yourself thinking about these things? Like, okay, I'm noticing maybe a little bit of low negative start to creep in. I want to shift into just kind of being pushed to the front of your mind a little bit. I know for me, it's just been, some of this stuff has been a really good review for me. And just kind of pushing it to the front of your mind, thinking about it, and being able to do some things to shift. Sometimes, for me, a lot of this is just being an awareness of where I am. If I'm aware of where I'm at, then I can usually pretty easily shift to where I want to be. But it definitely starts with awareness. So some things we've hit, of course, is talking about attitude, and the essence of mental toughness is that my attitudes and emotions are intimately connected when I assume full responsibility for my attitudes. We're interested in winning. We're interested in being victors, and winners take responsibility for my attitude. And like I said last week, it's actually very, very liberating to be in that spot. Talks about motivation, purpose, and passion. You got to discover ultimately the source of your passion, and you got to love the battle more than the outcome. You got to love being in the fight, and that's true in Christianity. Every day, there is an adversary, and we got to love being in the fight. We armor up, and we got to love being in it. Do what you love what you do. Very, very true. The scripture would say, rejoice in the Lord always. And it's fun to live your life that way. Last week we talked about visualization, 3 key images to get into your brain. Hopefully, I know some of my family was talking about those, what those were, trying to figure them out. Hopefully some of you guys put some thought into that and trying to crystallize in your mind some of those images to be able to put there to get you into whatever emotional state you want to be in. Of course, the ultimate power of visualization lies in your self-image. Jeff Lansgard actually last week had a really good question afterwards. He came up and he said, I didn't want to derail you, but kind of wanted to ask, what's the difference between this and manifesting, how people talk about manifest your destiny or something along those. Any of you guys ever seen The Secret? I like you. Okay, you have. I got roped into it. Some people I was studying with, this. Here's the reality. You hear people talk about manifest your destiny. If you visualize it, the universe, there's something in the universe, and it will work in your favor and help you get what you want. Well, the reality of it is, guys, there are spiritual laws that are very, very strong that God has put into place. And that is, what you see, you will become. It's not because there's something in the universe that's out there and some weird mysticism. It's a spiritual law that your mind is so powerful that what you choose to see becoming reality, you will find a way typically to make that happen. And that's true for Christians or non-Christians. Now, where it's different for us, and this is important, I'm actually glad Jeff asked that, because you do have people, the Eastern mysticism, the New Age people, the high performers in the world, they understand the power of visualization. They don't understand the ultimate power or key in on the things that God has given to us. I'm just going to say this simply. We live by faith. And faith, for tonight's purposes, I'm going to put it simply, faith means we buy into the pictures that God has given to us. Okay? Instead of there being our own, like, okay, I want this Lamborghini car in a certain color and everything. I'm going to put it on my mirror in the bathroom and see that every day. And well, that kind of stuff can work for people. They can do that and get their Lamborghini. That's not what we're interested in, though. Ultimately, we are interested in the faith picture that God's given to us, and we could. There's a lot of different pictures along the way that I hope we get. I'll just say for tonight, the glorified Christ. So the spiritual laws are in place so that anybody can use these things The me I see is the me I'm going to be. But for the Christian, it is different because we are buying into. The visualization isn't something, it's not our own dreams, it's the dreams that God has given to us through his word. Does that make sense? The power is there for us. That's actually why God has given it to us. All right, tonight, actually the next 2 weeks are kind of interesting. It'll be good for me. Exercise tonight, and next week is diet, and these are some areas in my life I got to do better. So there's some really key parts of this that I want to get into in a moment, but first I'm going to ask Bob if you would show, there's a Nikki Morancic. So Matthew has a YOLO program, YOLO curriculum for youth, and collaboration of some different people putting together lessons. And Nikki Morancic wrote one that was one of my favorites. I just need to go back and execute it, but it's called Fuel and Fitness. And I'll refer to a couple things in that tonight. But just to remind us of why this is important in a big picture sense, I'm going to give the summary video that we had made for this lesson and just let you guys watch it. 60 seconds is all. I think it's a good summary of why this is important. And tonight we're going to tie it in with mental toughness. So strategies in terms of exercise regularly to relax tension, elevate mood, increase confidence, and to build mental stamina. Physical fitness translates automatically into mental toughness. Now I want to preface that with one thing. There are people that are very physically fit that have mental toughness in certain areas of their life and not in others. Okay, so I'm not saying that everybody that's physically fit is mentally tough in the rest of their life. But it's an easy translation. Okay, I would say that nobody typically is physically fit without developing some mental toughness in at least one area of their life. Okay? And it does translate. If you know and you care about life in general, not just about your physical fitness, then it translates very well automatically into mental toughness. You know, God does want us to be disciplined physically as well as spiritually. That verse that actually came up on that video from Proverbs 31:17, she girds herself with strength and makes her arm strong. That's Proverbs 31 woman, which ultimately we know is a physical representation for the church spiritually. But nonetheless, that's a picture of this lady. She was strong. And, I was just thinking, throughout most of history, humans have walked a lot. But ever since the assembly line production of the Ford, the Model T, and from there on, there's been a lot less walking of human beings, and particularly in advanced nations. And so there's natural exercise that's been built into most of our existence that is no longer there. You know, I think about Jesus and the apostles. You think about those guys going from Judea to Galilee, Galilee to Judea, back and forth. They hoofed it a lot. They're getting a lot of exercise. Some of us work super physical jobs still, and we get a lot of exercise in what we do naturally. A lot of us don't. Okay? And so it's something that we're going to have to make a conscious effort to, an intentional effort to exercise. Discipline my body, make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified. this is a good reminder to me. If I can't be disciplined in the physical realm, how can I be in the spiritual realm? On the other hand, discipline yourself for the purpose of godliness. And that's ultimately, we understand as Christians, that's the ultimate. That's what we want. We're not trying to compete with Arnie for the Mr. Universe or whatever. We're trying to compete in the spiritual realm to be who God wanted us to be. So we care about godliness, but he does say bodily discipline is of little profit. And I've found in my life there typically is a relationship between these two things. So let's talk about this. I don't know how much you guys know about boxing. I don't know too much about it. Anybody know how many minutes the rounds are? 3 minutes, professional boxing match. How many rounds usually? That vary a little bit depending on up to 12 rounds. It's been a while since I've seen the Rocky movies. But 3 minutes doesn't seem like that long. 3 minutes and intense. Those rounds are long. Okay? These guys are sucking air pretty good. I mean, if you try to get in one when you haven't been, you will be. I actually remember John Dowdy when did he live with you guys at the time, or I think, and he was doing some boxing. I remember him training, and he was running like 5K. He told me what his 3-mile time was, and I think he was trying to run 3 miles in like 6 minutes a mile for the purpose of boxing. So very, very intense stuff. So in this, we're talking about 1 hour tennis lessons, then going lifting weights, jumping rope, pedaling the bike, punching the bag. Okay? But we're not talking about boxing. I did that on purpose. We're talking about chess. Okay? Bobby Fischer, the World Chess Championship, 1972. This was his training regimen for chess. You know why? Chess appears to be solely mental, but in an ordinary 6-hour game of chess, professionals will lose between 4 to 5 pounds. That's how much that's how many calories are being expended. So you have to be in tip-top physical shape in order to have your best mentally in a game of chess as a chess professional. Well, guys, how much for us spiritually to be at the top of our game mentally? Okay, we want to be in a position where we can do that for the Lord. A chess master can't fully deploy his mental skills unless he has physical stamina. Mental work is physical work. How many of you have ever been really focused on a mental job and you are exhausted when you're done? My dad used to say that when he used to preach a little more energetically, he still can, by the way, but typically it's not as energetic all the time as it used to be. But he would compare preaching a good energetic message to like a 5-mile jog. There's a mental aspect. And you guys know my dad, he doesn't have notes. He's pulling all that stuff out from his memory. There's a lot of work involved in that mental work. Performance requires energy, bottom line. And so there's a direct relationship between physical stamina and mental performance. It's not brain versus brawn, mind versus matter, or jock versus nerd. Okay? These things really, we need to be in some good physical condition to get the most mentally. It's interesting, the brain makes up only about 2% of the body's mass, but uses 25% of the body's energy. Okay? So 1/4 of your blood supply at any given moment is coursing through the brain. So what we can tell you something then, if physical activities alter the chemistry of the blood, that's going to have an impact mentally immediately. Okay? That's the way it works. You got 1/4 of that blood going through the brain at any given time, it's going to have immediate mental consequences. So exercise in general. Your mental performance state reflects the chemical balance among hormones and neurotransmitters. I'm not getting into all of this. I'm no expert on any of this. I looked up a few of these things, so I know a little bit what I'm talking about. But norepinephrine is both a hormone and a transmitter. Without it, you're asleep. Too much, and you're keyed up and edgy. With the proper amount, you're ready to perform. Have you ever noticed when you have not enough? Have you ever noticed when you got a little too much? Okay. So, and then there's these other ones, acetylcholine, dopamine, epinephrine, serotonin, endorphins, and others. Some of these we know some things about. Acetylcholine is responsible for your cardiac contractions and your blood pressure. Dopamine is your pleasure, your satisfaction, motivation. Epinephrine is your fight or flight response. Sometimes you do need that. Okay. Serotonin, mood, sleep, digestion, and endorphins alleviate pain, lower stress, and improve mood. So we want these to be in the right place. And what's really interesting, I'm trying to remember, I don't want to get ahead of myself. Okay, I'll wait a second. But every day, millions of Americans adjust their chemical balance with drugs. Caffeine, how many of you guys like your morning coffee? I do. Alcohol, I won't ask you how many of you like your morning alcohol. I hope not. I hope not many of you. Actually, sometimes alcohol is it's for a lot of people, it's a crutch downer at night to take the edge off. And that's a problem when you're dependent on that. Prescription pharmaceuticals, that's really big in our life, in our world, I should say, hopefully. Illegal substances such as heroin or cocaine. And these drugs function by changing the chemical balance in the bloodstream. It's a real thing. That's why they work. Or that's why they have effects, I should say, that are unmistakable effects. Cocaine increases the body's production of norepinephrine. A line or two energizes mind and body. I can't suggest trying that one. While a little more leads to frazzled nerves. Sherlock Holmes, what was he in the heroin? Okay, so I knew he was always on, not always on a rager, but from time to time. Heroin and other opiates are chemical cousins of natural endorphins. So a lot of people, basically the long and the short of it is, a lot of people try to use chemical substances to get them in the feeling or the state that they want to be in. Okay, you guys know many performers, just pick on Elvis because I know a little bit about his story, but they get stuck in a routine in a trap really of uppers and downers, uppers and downers, uppers and downers, and a lot of them end up either ODing intentionally or unintentionally. It's just in no way to live your life, okay? And so, as Christians, we want to be careful, particularly careful, because we don't want to be mastered by anything, right? That's what Scripture says. So we don't want to get caught up in that. There are some things in the physical realm that God's given to us that actually help. Endorphins, opiates block the transmission of pain signals to the brain inside the limbic system. They stimulate the pleasure centers. Getting into the ideal performance state doesn't require poppy juice. Is it true that if you eat poppy seed muffins, you can test positive for opioids or whatever? I think you would probably have to eat a substantial amount, but I'm not going to. I think if you eat a Costco poppy seed muffin tomorrow morning for breakfast, I think you're more worried about the sugar. That's next week's discussion. But here's the interesting thing, guys. Physical exercise is better at adjusting the chemical balance in the nervous system. Okay, now I'm going to clarify something. Typically, when I make a statement like this, I like to have my sources. Okay, was not able to find these. I know one of them, but I've combined it with another one, and I don't remember where I read this. But I've read that a half-hour walk in conjunction with journaling and high-protein breakfast are as effective as any prescription medications for anxiety, depression, etc. Jordan Peterson, some of you guys are familiar with him. His 12 Rules for Life. He actually brings out, this is a little more the diet thing, but a lot of people, basically, one of the things he is just by changing what you're eating for breakfast, okay, can dramatically change, can bring people to subclinical levels of depression or anxiety. So, but exercise, here's one. Bill Phillips, fitness expert, said, food is the most widely abused anti-anxiety drug in America, and exercise is the most potent yet underutilized antidepressant. I believe that. Okay? How do I say this? The world would encourage, so take somebody like Jordan Peterson, who doesn't want to be quick to prescribe medication, is going to say, walk half an hour a day and do some journaling. I have encouraged people, walk half an hour a day and pray. And write your prayers. That just doing those two things will get you a lot further than going and seeing if somebody can fix the chemical imbalance. What I have found, though, is very few people are willing to walk 30 minutes a day and pray. Just the truth. But God has some things built in. Exercise itself, natural endorphins, etc. So when you exercise, the body produces more of those. Let's say it this way. I like it. Motion controls emotion. I'm not going to go through these too much because the low negative, the slow negative, yeah. That would probably be true. Stiff, slow, halting responses, poor coordination. This is what your body's like if you're in the low negative. I don't know that I don't know if I've ever tried to have high performance in the low negative, but walking down the stairs when you have the flu really bad, you aren't the most coordinated in the world. The high negative, tense, edgy. The movements are jerky, difficult to control, and responses are often inappropriate. If you don't know what I mean, go play a pickup game of basketball at the YMCA in Billings sometime. Okay? You will find people in high negative, and they are tense and edgy, and their movements are jerky and difficult to control, and they foul you really, really hard because they're out of control. And then their responses aren't appropriate either in another realm. So high negative is not a place to be. High positive, calm but energized, responsive and engaged, coordinated and graceful, actions appropriate to the situation. And low positive, relaxed, lethargic, unperturbed, open and at ease. How many of you guys knew Todd Cooper? Okay, one of the nicknames that some school kids in Billings gave him was Mr. Imperturbable. Okay? Now, if you know Coop did not get perturbed very easily at all. He was the most chill, mellow. He was probably one of the reasons he was my best friend. It balanced me out a little bit. Very chill. But you know one reason why? Because Coop, from the time he was young, with his heart issues, he couldn't really be high positive very much. We saw him a couple times when we got him there. Gave him some Mountain Dew and then played pick-up basketball really hard. Didn't realize. And got the heart rate stuck up, and we're taking him into the ER. So Coop figured out in his life that's where he lived. And he was almost always in the low positive. I rarely saw him in the low negative. Funny story about Coop, by the way, just for the fun of it, lighten the mood here a little bit. If you're anti-exercise. Invited Coop one time to an Amway meeting. I think my dad was doing or something. And Coop comes to the meeting, kind of last minute, and he's wearing a T-shirt that says, "Just say no." Very, very funny guy. I love Coop. Anyways, looking forward to seeing him in glory. So let's talk about this, though, a little bit. Many daily challenges do push you towards the high negative. You ever notice that? Other people, oftentimes, if we want to just say Satan would love to have you in the high negative. Maybe the second best place other than being dead that he could have you. Frustrations mount, tensions build. As nervous tension builds, it's reflected in increased muscular tension. Have you ever felt that? If people live in a state of high negative a lot, they're very tense. Releasing one kind of tension will release the other. So there's some just basic exercise. The following work well for a controlled release of muscle and nervous tension. Now, you might be inclined to, if you had a punching bag in there, go and just wail on that punching bag or chuck something across the room. You might get some energy out, some of that tension out, but really you're just staying in the high negative, aren't you? So there's some things you can do, and you guys can use whatever you want here on this. The enhanced shoulder shrug, so maybe we could try this. Clench your fists. I am in low positive. I'm having a hard time even talking correctly tonight. The enhanced shoulder shrug, so clench your fists, tense your arms and legs, lift your shoulders as high as they will go. Hold for 10 to 15 seconds. Oh, my shoulders are already getting, I still got some of that bug. And then release. And then repeat a few times. Okay? And you do that, you get some of that tension out of you. Putting on the squeeze. This is cross your arms around your chest, squeeze all the air out of your lungs for 8 seconds. You can do this on your own. Relax and inhale as you extend your arms upward and outward. Repeat. I tried these just for the fun of it. They feel pretty good. And doing desk exercises. You can do dips with arms. You guys ever done dips? Okay. You can probably drop down, do some push-ups, air squats, etc. So just something to get a little bit of that tension out. These are just practical short-term things. Often it's difficult to get into a task. Okay, if you're having a hard time getting motivated, you ever sitting there trying to get something done and you just start? I remember in school as a kid, my dad, whenever it had to do with English writing, I know, where's Lance? He loves that, I know, because he sometimes, do I have to do this? And that's a fair question. Lance, I asked the same question, and I didn't always particularly enjoy the writing assignments in those English pages. But my dad's favorite response was, get your pencil moving. Okay? If you get the pencil moving, if you just get, the hardest part oftentimes is starting, what I'm saying. So sometimes, though, you're having a hard time getting started, okay? Go take an exercise break. A few minutes of vigorous activity stimulates norepinephrine production, making you more alert and energized. At the same time, serotonin and endorphin levels rise, ensuring that tension doesn't rise. You breathe more deeply as your heart pumps more blood, causing your brain to receive more energy. Both sides of your body are involved, which stimulates both sides of the brain, full mental powers when you return to your task. I don't know, obviously, the environment might choose for you whether or not you get to do this. But I would say, if you're interested in trying to get started and get that energy level back up where you get going, this is a lot better than pulling out your phone and vegging on your phone, okay? Which is what most people do when they don't want to get started on something. That just keeps you more, okay? Do something a little bit active. Yes, Jason.
Just a really quick comment on getting yourself going. Something that I've found works really good is if you're kind of in a stuck spot, trying to motivate yourself to get on to the next thing, if you count down backwards, just let yourself know, hey, okay, after we count down, it's going to be go time. And you count down 3, 2, 1, you'll find yourself bounce out of the chair.
I like that. I'll have to try that sometime. 3, 2, 1, blast off. Let's go. I think that's the concept, right? So, but a little bit of exercise. And sometimes, guys, it is an interesting thing. If you get a chance sometimes and you're stuck in something, and depending again on your job, what you're doing, but to go take a 5-10 minute walk outside, just get you going, refired back up. So it's some practical stuff. Pick-me-ups for when you run out of steam. Rope jumping with an imaginary rope for 2 to 5 minutes. I can do it with an imaginary one. Okay? Do it. I can do double jumps, double unders with an imaginary one. Burpees or planks are good to do. You can handle those. Some of this stuff, we'll get to the check with your doctor first later. Muscle stretching, most of us can do a 5-minute routine for back, arms, legs, and neck. or run in place for 5 to 10 minutes, just to, again, to get yourself going. Hey, this is all short-term stuff. And physical exercise is a practical short-term tactic for controlling your performance state. Okay? There are times, I don't use it very often, but my school kids can tell you every once in a while, I'll even suggest go taking a walk around the church building. Okay? To get the brain reset a little bit. Some of the students like to walk while they're reviewing the scripture memorization. I've found boys in general, when they're younger in particular, can sit there and look at a memories sheet for a long time, but if you can get them walking while they're doing it, it helps them. So there's some practical short-term, but long-term exercise can do even more. Good body tone enhances self-confidence. Okay? When you feel good, you do good. And the process of building your body tone, I think this is the most important part, requires a succession of incremental steps. Setting goals and achieving them builds confidence even faster than it builds muscles. I'm going to pick on young guys for a second. I'll say guys in their early 20s. Guys in their early 20s are usually very easily interested in the gym. Okay? I wonder why that is. Okay? You go, you work out hard, and you start getting, there's measurable, visible progress, and you start feeling good. You feel like a man. And when you feel like a man, you can do that's in a very, we can see it in that age range easily, but the concept is there. When you feel good about yourself, there's a confidence level that comes with that from achieving goals in a measurable way. That is one thing I will say I enjoy about physical exercise is it is measurable. Sometimes the spiritual realm, it's really difficult to see measurable gains. Some guys I'm studying with right now, and they're a couple of them, their objective for the year, just across the board, gains, gains, gains. And they have been telling me that spiritually too, gains. Well, that's a good thing. When you're growing, you feel better about that. The ultimate confidence and mental toughness comes from developing the stamina to meet sustained challenges, prove what Scripture would call, in a spiritual sense, proven character. A little more on the science of this. Nerve cells and muscle cells both get their energy from the same source, glucose and oxygen carried in the blood. Oxygen comes from respiration, while the body produces glucose from various foods. When the two are combined, energy is released like fuel and oxygen in an engine. Ample supplies of both oxygen and glucose are required for the brain to perform at its best. The world throws challenges at us, whether we're rested or not. The only way to guarantee readiness is to build up a reservoir of energy. So, some of you, I know, have been faithful in your lives about, I'll just say, aerobic exercise. Have you ever noticed that if you have a really busy day or really busy week and you need to take a couple days, and you take a couple days off because you're so busy, have you noticed that there's an extra store of energy there for those days because of what you've built up? Anybody notice that in their life? Thank you, Cliff. The man behind the camera I saw. Jerry, question for you. I remember Larry Miller, where he worked at in Boise, Idaho, one of the things that they would play ultimate frisbee over their lunch break. And it was a exercise thing for them. Did any times that you worked, did your company ever try to build in exercise things for you, for your staff or anything? No. Okay. Some companies they did. So they would build exercise rooms into there. So if that's something you wanted to do, it was easily accessible. Okay. So there is a way to enlarge the supply of both glucose and oxygen, and that's aerobic exercise. And I want to just pause for a second here, because how many of you guys know what I mean if I say HIIT? Okay. High intensity interval training, right? So there are some real benefits of HIIT, and I've spent some time in my life where I really got into high intensity interval training. And the thing I loved about it is what you get, the benefits for the time is amazing, off the charts. Okay? You can go and you can do a 10-minute burp burpee HIIT workout, and what you get, the benefits from that are incredible. Couple problems with that. Okay, at 52, I'm not near as motivated to do HIIT workouts. High intensity interval training is not very fun at 52. Here's the other problem that I realized more after is in my life, a lot of my life is go, 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 go. And in my life, when I was doing HIIT, I had more younger kids, and it was go, 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 even more go. And I realized what HIIT was one more thing in my life that was go, go, go. Okay? So hear me out on this for a second. Okay? What you can get physically from that is really good for time allotted. It does not help you mentally. I mean, there's a mental toughness aspect to it to push yourself through. What I'm saying is some of the benefits we're going to talk about from aerobic exercise, some of those benefits are not there with things like HIIT. Okay? So aerobic means with air. Okay? Things like, I won't go into all the science. I will say one time a young guy in the church in Billings, we were talking about a 4-minute mile and the impressive guys that can run 4-minute mile. And this guy said, oh, basically it's all mental. I'm like, no, it's not only. He's like, yeah, it just meant. It's like, okay, I'll tell you what. I want you to go run 400 meters in 60 seconds. Okay? And then we'll talk about putting 4 of those back to back. Okay? So it's like, okay. So this guy was a basketball player. He takes off. The first 100, he is flying around that curve. Okay? 200, he's still doing pretty good. Coming around the 300, he's starting to, that last 100 meters, the guy starts running in cement. I told him he got it in 59 seconds. I don't think actually he quite crossed the finish line. He crashed, and I'm not kidding you. He literally, the guy was a tough guy, okay? He wasn't going to quit, but he literally crashed, and I don't think he ever crossed the finish line. The reason I'm bringing that up is it's not all mental. Okay? There's something physical that happens when your body is not getting aerobic, when it switches to anaerobic, and your body uses a whole nother system of energy, and one of the waste aspects of that is lactic acid buildup in your muscles. Okay? And so HIIT is you're pushing that lactic acid back, those kind of things. Aerobic means you're with oxygen. Okay? It's a steady state with oxygen. Deep breathing for extended period. Makes more red blood cells, which bring oxygen to your brain. Improves respiratory efficiency. Air is 21% oxygen. Typical person has 19% oxygen when he exhales, while aerobic exerciser has only 17% oxygen in air he exhales, twice as efficient. So they're being able to use twice as much. When I say it makes more red blood cells that bring oxygen to the brain, distance runners sometimes have to take, even male distance runners sometimes have to take iron supplements because their body's producing so many red blood cells. Yes, Mel?
Today I had a session with my cardiologist, okay? And in the test, normally my oxygen level is 98 or 99. 3 times in my life, I have hit 100. Today was one of them. But my energy level right now on today is 10. Very, very low. Even though my oxygen level is high, it's not ended up with a lot of energy.
That's a question for your doctor. But, Mel, how old are you? How old are you? 87 years old, and you're 100, you had 100 level oxygen today? That is very impressive, sir. You didn't do this. Sometimes the Lord particularly blesses certain people. I'm impressed nonetheless. Wow. Okay. Some of you guys that get a chance, check your blood oxygen level. I'll be shocked if any of you are as high as Mel. I mean, maybe a couple of you high aerobic exercises are, but okay. So exercise provides more glucose. Aerobic exercises raises the body's habitual glucose demand, thus the steady flow of energy rises, no fight or flight reaction upon challenges. So just across the board, what this does is gives you resources, gives you stores, so that your body isn't going to go as much into the fight and flight. Okay, you can stay in that low negative or low positive or high positive instead of veering off into the high negative. So getting started. Okay, if you are over 35, they tell you, see a doctor. Okay. Getting started is the toughest part. And I would encourage us all to think about wherever we're at in this life. Mel, you're doing pretty good. Okay, you can do whatever you want, and without any input from me, you've made it this far, and 100% blood oxygen level. Wow. But I would encourage the rest of us, if we are going to get the most out of our life for the Lord on this earth, that some form of aerobic exercise is actually very instrumental for us to be able to do that. It's important for us to do that. I'm talking to myself too. Running is the most popular form of aerobic exercise, but alternatives include cycling. I know, Gary, you are a cyclist. And even through your cancer and everything, you actually did quite a bit of that. I mean, you started feeling it drop off there. Indoor, yes. Yeah. And Bozeman's not always best for outdoor cyclists anyways, but swimming is a good one if you can swim. Cross-country skiing is good for around here. It's great in the winter times. Elliptical machines, brisk walking, hiking is the picture here. I've found personally that if I can do this outside, I get more benefit than doing it inside. Treadmills are okay. Elliptical machines are okay. If that's what you got, that's what you got. But if you can get outside, I think there's an added benefit of doing it. Exercise got to be enjoyed or its benefits will be minimal. So you have to find a way, find something that you can enjoy. And I will also say this, as a Christian, if you're trying to memorize scripture or have daily prayer time, these are things you can combine together. I think about Steve Doty. Every morning I see Steve wherever I'm at. He gets out and he goes for, I don't know, I've never timed him on his walks. But it's a prayer walk. He's praying while he's walking. Finding a way to do things at the same time. Okay, you can listen to scripture memorization, stuff you're working on for memorization of scripture if you want to, or review the stuff that you have. Find ways to make, because we're all limited in time, but you can find ways to do this together with other spiritual disciplines, and it's very beneficial. You got to find ways, again, to have fun. We've talked about that. Example of overweight sergeants in Sweden. One group went at it positively, while the other did it with a sense of drudgery. It's interesting because they both took in the same amount of calories a day while expending the same amount of calories. But here's the wild thing. The positive group lost weight almost twice as quickly, and the negative group showed almost imperceptible improvements in increased lung capacity and red blood cells. That seems odd, but it tells you how much, if you're going to do it, which you should, find a way to do it with fun. Have fun, enjoy doing it. Whether sometimes it's, I was going to say walking your dog, but if your dog's like mine, he takes the fun out of the walk. So he's burned me over and over again. It's like, no, I will never take you with me while I'm trying to get an exercise walk in again. And then somewhere anyways. So if your dogs are better behaved than mine, then you can do those. Okay, how about walking with your spouse? Okay, build a relationship, talking, doing these things together. Increase the brain's fuel supply. You must engage in aerobic exercise for 30 minutes a day, 4 days a week. You don't have to start there. I like what Nikki said. Start with 10 minutes a day. Okay? She said the ultimate goal is 50 minutes a day, 6 days a week. 30 minutes a day, 4 days a week, though, is a lot of, it's for time efficient. The benefits you get from it, very, very valuable. I know it's 2 to 3 hours a week, but you more than gain it back in increased performance. Okay? Up to a 20% increase in your minute-by-minute performance the rest of your week. Start slow, exercise at a pace that allows conversation. It's just a general rule. Okay? If you are going so hard that you can't, a few of you might be elite level competitors, and you can do whatever you want to. I will say, Denya is a always fit lady, and shortly after I had moved here, we all went on this hike, a bunch of us, and we went up to Baldy, Scott Schweitz, me. So Scott and Denya had some competition, and I jumped in on it, and we were going to see who got to the top of Baldy first. So we all go together up till the last stretch. So Denya takes off. I don't remember if Scott or me got second. Honestly, I just know I didn't win. Denya doesn't, Denya gets to the top, okay? I don't know. We get to the top, and Denya's on her phone. Just loving, anyways. I wasn't at a conversational pace that last stretch. I don't know what my heart rate was, but it was too high, I can tell you that. And no problem for Denya. So some of you are in a position where you can push beyond this. But if you're starting particularly, or you want to be in that just general aerobic place, it should be a pace that allows conversation. Focus on what you can control. Find a way to work something into your routine. It should be a higher priority than weightlifting or other anaerobic forms. Weightlifting is important. I think 2 or 3 days a week of just quick total body exercises keeps you from getting hurt. I would strongly encourage you on that too, okay? But the aerobic is the most important part for your mind. Create a play around every part of your program. Make it a point to have fun. You're over 35, see a doctor. Start slowly, find your target heart rate, and stay in that range. There's all sorts of ways. Here's a really simple one. Take 180 minus your age. Okay? I know they'll say 220 minus your age, multiply by just 180 minus your age. Okay? That's a good place to be in. You'll find it's conversational, but you're still getting some aerobic. The older you get, the less fast you get to go. That's just, don't overdo it. Okay? This is to help us. Okay? Again, some of you elite athletes. Cliff, how old are you? So I don't know what your 180 minus your age would be, but I bet you can go higher heart rate than that pretty consistently. Yeah. Yeah, there's somewhere in there. But if you're older and you haven't been doing anything, I still would follow it. 180 minus your age, okay? Keep an accurate record of your efforts. How does it affect your energy levels, moods, attitudes, stress levels, and overall performance? Just a question. How many of you at some point in your life have been for an extended period of time, some sort of regular aerobic exercise? Any of you? Okay. I won't ask you how many are now, but I will ask you this. Did you feel better when you did it? Okay. It's your performance is better, your mind is better, your body is better, and there is a long-term effect of you want to be healthy. I'm preaching it myself. Do you want to make your life count at the end of your life or not? It's worth doing. So next week we'll work on diet, and there's lots of different ideas, but there's some very basic things that everybody agrees on, and we'll hit some of that next week.